Hey everybody. Got my punch. Ready to wreak some havoc. So basically what I've done here, you can't really see all of it. I got a big collection off eBay, and I've been slowly sorting it over time into just different general types of tokens that I might want to use. I'm not done sorting them all yet, but I have enough that I can start going through them and picking out the ones that I really like. So over here I got, humans, mostly humans and elves. The types that you're going to see a lot in D&D. There wasn't a lot of dwarves. I don't know enough about magic, but is there just like not a lot of trad fantasy dwarves? That's the feeling I get. I didn't really run into any of those. So that maybe that's kind of a hole that you might need to fill. But it got a lot of other just sort of general humanoids here. A lot of lizard people, cat people, stuff like that. A lot of Naga were in the pack that I got. Got these cool hound archers. Those guys are neat. And I got like a bunch of vampires over here, a whole bunch of elementals and constructs, which are really fun because I really like golems and things like that. So those look like they would be pretty fun. Let's see. Should I start with the commons or should I start killing the uncommons first? What is more traumatizing? Like what I should get is a whole bunch of stuff from the Mirrodin set because that has a lot of artifact creatures. And I love constructs in my D&D games. I think they're really fun to fight. It's like fighting, D&D robots. All right, let's start off with one of these. So I really like this guy. Let's kill him. So I'm going to try and line him up here. He's a little big. So the trick is to get all of the important parts in there so it's easy to tell what it is that you're looking at. Try not to cut off too much of one arm or the other. That looks pretty good. Up a little bit. All right, there we go. Yeah, first one down. That looks really great. Sort of thing to be wandering a robotic dungeon, maybe something made by like elves from another plane. That seems to be a theme in OSR stuff. Just like elves from other dimensions that have robotic technology, like in Misty Isles of the Eld. So he'd probably fit in well there. Gonna make a pile of all my robot guys over here. Has anyone else started killing some cards yet? Some people have notified me that they've been going out and buying some big bulk sets. Yeah, Cathara says, I'm definitely not the first person to have this idea. People have been using magic cards with D&D for years and years. I mean, it's kind of an obvious solution. There's so much good art. I know what some people did is they would cut these out and then they would just sort of leave them as like a square and then attach them to a stand like vertically. So you would have like art and you would like move it around on a stand. So that's kind of a cool idea. If you have like one of those circular stands with like the slots in the top, so you can just like slot one of these in, right? That's a solution. Yeah, or people making pogs. Usually the pogs people make have been 1-inch ones, which means just smaller images, which I'm not a huge fan of. And some people have sent me some really creative ways to do it, where they like they get the image and they put it inside like this little metal circular platform. I'm not even sure what it's called, but it has like little ridges around the edge. So you put the picture in the middle and then you pour like epoxy into it. So you have this hardened plastic coating over the top. It was really fancy looking. It looked really cool, but it's more work than I want to put into it. It just becomes pretty expensive too. Let's see. I like this guy. Let's go with this guy. Yeah. cathodion. It's funny, like the different pieces of art that look really good, but then you figure out that they don't quite work as a pog. This guy seems like he works pretty well. So you press down just enough that he kind of gets locked in place, so you can position him a little better. Do more like that. Yeah, that's better. Nice. Charlie Bem is wondering, I have a ton of cards already, but is wondering what backing you're using. So I'm using these. So these are 1.5-inch circles. They're 1/8 of an inch thick. The annoying thing is that I think they are 1.5 inches at first, but they do get sanded down, so they're slightly less than 1.5 inches, which means that the punch outs are just a tiny bit wider, which is kind of annoying. If it really bothers you, you might have to like get a craft knife and go around the edges and just like trim off a little bit of the edge, which is kind of annoying. But I got these from, where did I get these? I have the receipt around here actually. Casey's Wood Products is where I got them. I think I actually have a link in the description of the YouTube video I made last week about this. So if you check that description, you should find out the link. And from there, you can get these for less than 5 cents each. If you buy like a giant pack of them, which is what I did. I got 1,000 of these just because I plan to make a whole lot of them. So that seems to be the best way to get them. You can also get them from your craft store, but you're gonna start getting them in, about 10 cents each, or maybe even 15 cents each if you buy them in these smaller packs. So that's the trade-off. Let's see. You want to have a good selection of each kind. So that's why I was sorting these into piles, is that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't punching out a lot of very similar creatures. I want as much variety as possible. So most of these are quite different, which is good. Like this guy. So a lot of these aren't necessarily creature cards. Like this is an enchantment. But once you punch it out, who's going to know? It's going to look like a monster either way. I don't even know what that is. One thing I found out is that going through a lot of these magic cards, some of them, you really can't tell what you're looking at. Like some of the art on some of these is just really vague, where like it's way too dark and it's kind of muddy. And I'm just staring at it for like 5 minutes trying to figure out what I'm looking at. So that's kind of a bummer when you run into cards like that. Also, I've discovered you really want to get cards from more recent sets, generally speaking. The giant pack that I got off eBay, it had like 50% of it was from older sets, which I was kind of excited about at first, just because there's a lot of cool sets from early on. But especially if you go really early on in Magic's history, 4th edition, 5th edition, and up through, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. There's a lot of, maybe more like 15 years ago, art starts getting more modern, I guess. There's just a lot of really crappy art. Now, I'm sure the rares and uncommons tend to have better art, but when you're getting a giant pack of commons from 15 plus years ago, you're going to get a lot of really terrible art. So a lot of that wasn't very useful. I might end up boxing up a lot of these commons that I'm not going to use, and I'll probably just make a new bulk pack and just resell it on eBay again. Let's go with this guy. Pilgrim of the Fires. This guy's an uncommon. First uncommon down. First strike and trample. There we go. So he would go on there like that. Put him over here in my pile. Yeah. This year, I've definitely seen a lot of really great art from early Magic, but I suspect that most of it got put onto, rares and uncommons. I really like the style where it's actually painted, and you can really tell when it went from painted to digitally painted. And in some cases, that did mean a decrease in art quality. The bright side for the digital art is that it tends to be much more visible at small sizes, and it's less muddy, so that works better for tokens. Let's switch over to doing some ghosts. I have a wide variety of shades here. So some of these, like here's an early one, and then here's a later one. Some of these are just going to be, they're going to stand out better due to like having better contrast. I guess this is a more recent one that I probably won't cut out because it's just a little hard to tell what you're looking at once you cut out a section of it. Let's go with this guy. This is a good one. It looks a lot like a shadow from Dungeons and Dragons, so that'll work well. It's a shade, apparently. So let's see. How much do I want to include in there? That's good because I want to get like the curve of his back in there as well as his hand. Because if you cut off too much of either one, then you start losing a sense of what you're looking at. It's pretty good. All right. Yeah, that's good. I wonder why Wizards of the Coast has come out with a product like this. Yeah, it is a little weird. I mean, I think back in 4th edition, they put out a set called the Monster Vault, which was just, or for the most part, a giant box full of like cardboard sheets where you could just like punch out tons and tons of monster tokens. That's a really cool idea. It is kind of weird that doesn't exist for 5th edition, since it seems like it would be very cheap to produce and would really fill a need. All these new game masters coming into D&D because of 5th edition, and a lot of them can't afford, $500 or more in miniatures. But cardboard tokens are such a fast way to do it. One thing that would be really cool, would be even cheaper for Magic to do. I was thinking about this, is if they just released a giant book of stickers, right? Just like circular stickers. And then that way you could attach them onto your own wood tokens. I don't know if that would actually be cheaper or more expensive, but I would appreciate it because I wouldn't have to punch all these out. What else we got here? Let's go with this one. This is a more traditional ghost to fill all your traditional ghost needs. There we go. You go in the ghost pile. Not sure about these ones. Leave them alone for the time being. Let's go into my humans. So there's a lot of really great humans, and I suspect that the vast majority of the tokens that I'm going to make are going to be humans. So mostly, NPCs and PCs. And in most of my games, I have humans only. Tends to be pretty typical for me. So that's what I'm going to need the most of. A lot of good options. So you don't want ones that are too small, because then you lose a lot of detail, and players can't associate with them as cleanly, because you can't just like tell who they are. You can't pull their personality out when there's not much in the way of detail. So some of these are really great. Like this is definitely an old card, right? It has that old kind of painterly feel to it. I really like that. I think these are great. They feel a lot more like real people and less like a piece of, art station art. I want to get all of that magical effect in there. I want to cut off her other arm. That's good. One thing I really like about having these as character tokens is it reminds me of the type of thing that you would see in the old D&D video games, right? Like Baldur's Gate and stuff. When you have your little character portraits at the bottom, like I want these tokens to kind of be like that. Yeah, I heard that the fantasy trip was going to have 1.5-inch hexes. I'm curious about why they did that. That is a real break from what we typically see in these types of games. I wonder if they had a reason for it. Mm. It is a bit weird to me that you see a lot of D&D art that seems lower quality than Magic art because it's run by like the same company. They're probably in the same building even. How hard is it to wrangle up artists from your Magic the Gathering stable to do D&D stuff? I don't know. These are some pretty good ones. Ooh, I like him. Let's go with him. She's good. Yeah. One of the nice things about the more recent Magic the Gathering sets is that they've been covering a whole bunch of different planes. Ixalan, which is like Aztec fantasy, and there's one set in ancient Egypt, there's one set in Greece, and so on. So what you end up getting is lots of characters from a wide variety of cultures, which is going to cover pretty much every type of NPC or PC that you want. Ooh, that's a good PC one as well. Too cartoony, maybe. I mean, I would like the art on these to be somewhat unified. So it's tricky when an artist really kind of goes into left field with their art style. Ooh, that's a really good one. Some of the most basic common cards make the best tokens just because they're not trying to do too much. They're being fairly generic, which is good because it can cover a variety of archetypes in D&D. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, as soon as I put out that video, everyone was like, "You gotta punch a Black Lotus. When are you gonna punch the Power 9?" It's like, hey, you send me them, maybe I'll think about it. Actually, I wouldn't. I would just invest in those and just put them in a safety deposit box somewhere. But yeah, one of the weird things that came out of making this video is most people took it in good humor, but there were certainly some people who really freaked out at the idea of punching even the most worthless common card, which I thought was really funny. I guess it's nostalgia. And if you're really attached to your cards, then, I mean, by all means, keep them safe. But I mean, these are just cardboard. And I don't know if people realize the number of Magic cards that are out there. I mean, Magic with each set prints like at least 1 billion of their cards for each set, probably more than that. I think it was 500,000 like 10 or 20 years ago. So it's probably like 1 billion per set now. So there are more of these than you could possibly imagine or ever count. And they're worth basically nothing. So just don't take them too seriously. It kind of goes along with the whole DIY D&D thing where it's your game and you have to take the game and the rules with a certain amount of a certain healthy disrespect, right? Where the rules and the pieces of the game itself aren't like these magical items, magical items that you can't touch, you can't alter, and you need to just like study like a holy tome. It's just art. It's just rules. It was made by people. You should feel free to alter it however you want. I think it promotes a healthier way to relate to games. Because it seems like a lot of the worst, like the really toxic elements in like gaming come from when people get super obsessed with one aspect of it, as if it wasn't just a game that was made up by a couple people in a room somewhere, right? Like it was dropped out of heaven by some angel and just delivered to the masses, and now we have to study and interpret it. It's like, no, it's just a bunch of rules. Anyone can write these rules. There we go. We have like a colonial game. What I want to get is a bunch of cards from that Magic set that was focused on horror. I forget what it's called now. Innistrad. So it has a lot of zombies and vampires and things like that. Let's look at a vampire. I got a wide variety of vampires over here. What do I got? See, this is a great piece of like background art, but I don't know if it would be really great as an actual token, just because the character is really small and they're sitting down in an environment. So it's harder to like use your imagination to place them somewhere else. Like if you're wandering through a dungeon and you have this character like wandering around and fighting, it's like a weird contrast because she's like sitting down in a chair in the picture. So you tend to want to have pictures where the character is standing up and doing something active. And so you can easily place them in different environments. There we go. That's a good one. That's a very like Anne Rice vampire right there. Nice. And just wander around your tabletop, just drinking his goblet of blood and just kind of sneering at you. But you can't really tell that he's a vampire from this picture, right? So he can serve a couple purposes. He could also just be like a random noble. So you want to look for that when you're finding good art too. Stuff that can be multi-purposed. The Cinderhillion, yeah, this is really great. There's a lot of great elemental type creatures in here. Like this guy's really cool too. The Vent Sentinel. Let's do a few elementals. Looks like a sandworm from Dune, except it's all made out of lava. The trick with some of these is that they're just slightly too large, that it's hard to frame them right, that you can still tell what's going on in just the circle. I think that's pretty good. Be easier. No, like right here. Lava elemental. That's a pretty standard D&D type thing, right? Gotta have one of those. And I don't really worry about having multiples of stuff because most of these D&D tropes are found like multiple times on different cards, right? Like I don't need to get 10 of the same goblin card because there's like several hundred different goblin cards that Magic has printed. So I'd rather all of my goblin cards look different because that's more fun anyway. Here we go. Yeah, that's a good one. For these little tokens, you really want just like not too many colors. You want just a couple of bold colors that stand out. You want clear silhouettes. You want a little bit of action where the character is doing something, like a bit of forward momentum, because then it works well with action scenes. Do a couple more PCs here. Like that's a really good one. I don't know, some sort of human wizard, I would guess. Nice. See what Chad is saying over here. Is there a link to purchase the cutout? Yeah, if you go to the original video where I talk about this, just go down to the description. I have links to the glue I'm using, the punch out, where you get the wood tokens. So there should be links to all of that. I mean, any 1.5 inch punch should work, but I would recommend this. It hasn't failed me yet. It seems to be going strong. Yeah, Ravnica would be a really great choice for this whole strategy. I think they're on the 8th block or the 8th set of Ravnica stuff, and there's a 9th one coming out really soon. I think there's gonna be a total of 9 different sets. So that's 9 times, I don't even know, like 200 to 300 cards. So that's thousands and thousands of images from Ravnica. So if you somehow collected all of those cards, you could make an amazing set of these tokens. If you really wanted to focus on running a D&D game in Ravnica. See, so here's like 2 different tree folk cards, right? And this one, like I can tell that there's like an arm going on here, and I feel like there's probably a face in here somewhere, but it's hard for my brain to like put it together really quickly, like what exactly I'm supposed to be looking at. I feel like I'm like missing it, whereas this one is way clearer. Like there's like a nose, there's an eyes and a mouth. You can just read it immediately. So that seems like a better choice in terms of doing like a tree elemental. Any other good choices in here? Yeah, let's go with this one for the tree elemental, or an ent, as they used to be called in early D&D before the Tolkien estate stopped them. There we go. Got to have your ents or tree ents. Put that in my elemental pile. Eric Sheely got the Fisker's punches. Yeah, tell me how those work out. They got really mixed reviews. So it could be that there was just a couple defective ones that caused the negative reviews. People said that they would like misalign and they wouldn't punch very cleanly. But obviously I never tried them. So I don't know if those reviews are accurate or not. Let's see. Some other really good ones in here. Oh, good. We got a good stone elemental. We got this sort of elemental plant beast thing. That's a good one. It's another good lava one. Grove Rumbler. So this one has like 2 creatures in it. Would it be possible to frame this so that you mostly just get it? No, not really. You're going to get the other one. But I don't know if that's a really big deal, honestly. It's a good piece of art. And if it has a little bit of someone else, I don't think that's really a huge deal. Yeah, it seems pretty good. Similarly, I have like this guy over here, and it's like a flaming suit of armor, and there's like a little guy on the side here, but he's kind of gold colored, so he sort of blends into the gold in the background, and he doesn't really pop out, so it's not really a big deal. Let's look at some other types here. Put my elementals back. Dragons. Now, one of the things I'm kind of struggling with is that I got a 1.5 inch punch, which means that all of these are going to be the same size. If I have a really large creature, it would be nice if I had like a really big punch and a big circle, big wooden circle. But the art is only so big. So there's not a whole lot of things that I can do there. That's a good one. Lightning Dragon. I looked at fender washers as well. The downside to those, they seemed like they were more expensive. I don't know if there's a good way to buy them in bulk. Maybe there is and I missed it. A blue guard drake. I don't know. Let's see. Do I have any blue drakes in here? What do I got? Got this undead dragon. There we go. We got a Tolarian drake. Pendril drake. That's blue. Seems to work okay. Tatter drake. That's all I have right now. Let's get some undead. Everybody needs some undead. Got some zombies. So again, pretty good picture of a zombie, but he is sitting down and he doesn't look active enough to blend into a D&D game very well. That guy looks pretty good. Ooh, that's a good one. That guy looks very classic. I'm probably going to need a lot of these because undead are so swarmy that you're going to want a bunch of them. So as many different types of zombies / skeletons as possible. D&D, Magic does trend towards ghouls and zombies rather than skeletons. I wish there were more skeletons because I do like skeletons. I feel it's a little bit more classic, but players can use their imaginations. Let's make an undead pile over here. Some of them are interesting in that they seem very magic specific. Like you can tell that they're a unique creature for the magic universe, which makes it a little bit harder to sort of make them a generic D&D monster. It's not really a big deal. Oh, there we go. It's a skeleton. Let's go with him. Yeah, classic. You see, like this one, it's a little bit too muddy, where it's a little bit hard to tell how the creature stands out from the background. So that's not really ideal. This one's a lot better. But that's a good one. That's a possibility. Fire skeleton. That's great. The art's kind of weird, though. It does look like it's CGI almost. I'm not sure if I'm a really big fan of that. Ooh, undead wolf. Good. Yep, that's a good one. That one's too muddy. This one is like a robot zombie. I'm down with that. This one's really good. All right, it's got 4 arms. It's got like candles on its back. It's holding a torch and lanterns. There's a lot of things that are going on all at once. So that's good because with a picture like this, you can communicate a whole lot. And it tells you a bunch of things very quickly with just the image. There's different strategies that are clearly being employed here. So like if the players threw oil at it, the oil might just self-ignite because it's already carrying fire. That's cool. Let's add that over there. Already have that guy. This guy looks good, but there's probably too much clutter in the background. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's go with those. What I might end up doing is going to a local store and digging through their commons and just asking them if I can get a bulk rate. If I just like take home 500 commons, might be worth asking, because getting this giant pack off eBay has been fun. But as I'm discovering by actually punching them out, even the ones that have good art that I like, not all of them are really well suited for tokens. So I might need to be more particular. I thought I could just go through and just punch a whole bunch, but I don't know if that's actually the case. Lamplighter of Sell-Off. I think this is an Innistrad guy. There we go. So you really want to include as much detail as possible. So include some of those lanterns. Make sure you get the candles in there, just so you can really see what is going on. I don't know if I can really get the torch very well. That's okay. Just cut it off like right there. That's good. I really like that guy. That's really flavorful. Maximum flavor with minimum art is what you want to go for. Got a little junior zombie here. Got a brain in a jar. So that'd be good if you had some sort of evil alchemical laboratory, like a necromancer laboratory. Throw him in there. What else we got here? Zombie wolf. Yeah. When your normal wolves are not scary enough. I also have a giant pile over here of just like standard creatures, like woodland animals and so on. Well, I guess some of them aren't so standard. A lot of them are really big. But when you're wandering the wilds, you're probably going to need some giant spiders, giant snakes, wolf packs. That's just a common enemy. Rhinos. Why are there so many rhinos in Magic the Gathering? Because I've been going through all of these cards and I'm finding just like every set seems to have at least one rhino. I don't know what the deal is with that. Mm-hmm. Right, cats. Rats. Okay, I'm definitely going to need rats. Rat swarms. So if I had a card that had a whole bunch of rats on it, that would be even better, because I don't want it to just represent one rat. It's that'd be kind of boring. Let's see here. I'm sure I had one with a bunch of rats in it. That's a good one. I like crows. Wonder where all the rats went. Giant toad? Yes, please. Giant toads are fun because they got special abilities, right? You can make them jump really far. You can make them swallow people. They have like the tongue that grabs people. They can start swimming underwater when they're attacked. So a lot of great tactical things you can do with them. Someone asked, I wonder what Magic the Gathering thinks about this. Magic the Gathering does not care what I'm doing with their cards. A, I bought them. And B, Magic doesn't care about these at all. Like I said, Magic prints billions of these every year. These are essentially worthless to them. Giant spider. Got your Shelob. I like this guy because it's very bright and there's a lot of contrast. There's good silhouette, so you can read it very quickly. That's good. Says Warhammer cards are good for this as well. Warhammer. What game is that? I mean, I know there's the miniature game. I didn't know there was a card game for it. I guess it wasn't there like a Warhammer 3rd edition, the one that no one talks about. That had a lot of cards. I've never seen the art on those though. Let's look at some goblins. I was just watching a video about goblins in Magic. And the funny thing is that they all look different. Actually, this pile's not just goblins. It's like goblins, ogres, trolls, giants, like monstrous humanoids. Because they all fill a similar role, really. Although, depending on the setting, you got some orcs that are very like civilized looking, and then you have some that are very barbaric. So it really depends on which Magic universe you're currently in. That's a really good one, right? Neutral background. It's got a lot of detail. It's got a lot of personality. Like a goblin pile over here. Let's see what chat is saying. Oh, yeah, I see. Good recommendations for rat cards. Septic rats, relentless rats, rat colony. Yeah, I should look those up. So they definitely want ones with like lots of rats packed on there. If they're junk, why does Magic the Gathering take the time to print them? Because people buy them. That's why they print them. The cards are basically worthless in and of themselves. They're given worth by people wanting them more, especially the rare ones. Yeah, there was actually an interesting article I was reading by the Magic designer because people were asking, why don't you only print good cards? Why is it that you print bad cards and good cards? And the article was really interesting. Basically, you can't print all good cards. There's no way to make everything perfectly balanced. And if you try to do that and try and print everything equally good, you're just going to raise the baseline for what bad is, right? So all of these cards that are now supposedly equally good, once you actually start playing them, you'll figure out some are more useful than others. And the ones that are less useful are then going to be the bad cards. So you're always going to have bad cards and good cards. It's inevitable. So the trick is to control where that range is and then put cards within that range because you're going to have it one way or another. Vampire and Werewolf had a card game too. You could use them for this as well. Yeah, that's definitely true. There was a Vampire, the Eternal Struggle, which was, I think, the collectible card game. That went out of print a long time ago. You might be able to pick up a lot of them for cheap on eBay. But one cool thing is that all of the cards from Vampire the Eternal Struggle have been picked up, or like the rights to it have been bought by a different company. And what they're doing is that they're releasing them on drive-through cards, which is the print-on-demand card printing version of drive-through RPG. So they're releasing them in like standard sets, kind of like the way that Netrunner was released, where every once in a while they'll put out a new set of cards and you just buy it and you get all of the cards from that set. It's not randomized anymore. So it's a neat way to kind of revive old card games. I wish more companies would do that. There's a lot of really good CCGs from back in the day that died out because they couldn't compete with Magic. but had a lot of really great games, a lot of great gameplay, a lot of good ideas, and they just weren't able to survive. Magic had a lot of oozes for your cube type of fun. Yeah, I like oozes. Oozes and constructs are favorites of mine. That you don't use a grid when you play. How do you set up your table? Yeah, I just set them on the table. You don't need a grid to play with them. And then you just measure it distances with a ruler if you want to use a ruler. I just kind of eyeball it. Like, these are 1.5 inches. So you can say that let's say they can move 6 of their own lengths. So you can just sort of like move them around the table by just measuring the length against themselves. That's as much detail as I really need. I mean, a lot of games don't use precise measurement at all, right? A lot of people use theater of the mind, where who cares about exact distances at all? So I'm sort of a middle ground where I liked seeing the characters on the table so I know their relative positions, but I'm not super picky about distances. So it's just a little bit of both worlds, I guess. How do you make sure you're not chopping up a $40 card before you punch in a hole in it? Well, for one thing, most of these are commons. And they're all from they're mostly just like chaff. And I got this box from someone who sells magic cards. So if any of these were worth a significant amount of money, I'm sure he would have sold them already. And thirdly, I just don't really care very much. I doubt any of these are worth more than 25, 50 cents, probably at maximum. Vast majority of them are worth basically nothing. So on average, who cares? I'd rather just get the art from them. I'm not going to spend the time to go through them and figure out, oh, this one's worth 20 cents. And then spend a couple weeks trying to sell a 20-cent card on eBay. Like I don't have time for that. Legend of the Five brings a lot of great art. Yes, it did. I never really played L5R, but the original game, CCG, did have a lot of really excellent art. I know they've revamped it, and Fantasy Flight is putting it out as a living card game now, but I haven't tried that. I think I like the card design from the earlier version better. It was more like baroque and ornate, whereas the new cards seem like very minimalistic. I don't know if I'm as big a fan of that. An old CCG called Dark Age with a lot of Brahm art. That sounds really cool. Yeah, if you like Dark Sun, you could probably pillage a lot of art on there for it. You could use a string to see how far away things can move. Yeah, that would be really useful. There is a really great war game that I've been reading the rules of called a Song of Blades and Heroes, I think, or a Song of Swords and Heroes, one of those. And it has a really great movement system where you don't need rulers really. In fact, you just need 3 different lengths of ruler. So you can use a string, or you can just like cut a stick where you have a small, medium, and large stick, and all ranges just use those sticks. So you don't have to measure particular inches. All the rules will just be, you can move one short distance or one medium distance or one long distance. And it just keeps things really fast. You just pull out the right stick and you can measure things without having to look at numbers. I kind of like that system. Rift CCG, yeah. So now that I'm thinking about this, not only does Magic have a lot of great art, but there are hundreds really of dead CCGs out there. And the art probably on them varies a lot. But for a lot of them, you could probably pick them up real cheap because people aren't playing them and they'll sell them off for a song on eBay. Though it really depends. There are definitely some of these old dead CCGs that are now super expensive because they have a cult following and no one can get the cards anymore. So the prices have just gone through the roof. But if you find a good game with good art that no one's playing anymore, you could probably get these for even cheaper than Magic. Let's get another goblin going here. Oh, that's a good one. That looks like Wayne Reynolds. Yep, it's Wayne Reynolds, the guy who does all the Pathfinder art. He has a really distinctive style. See, this guy's good, but the way he's up at the top of the card art here, I think it would look kind of weird. I cropped out the rest of it. It would feel like I hadn't cropped him right. Merciless Executioner. Oh, this is good, right? If you're in a dungeon, meet a goblin with a torch. That's perfect. Let's go with him. I got a lot of Eldrazi as well, which are these sort of Cthulhu-esque creatures that Magic did at one point. But I don't really know how to make them into good D&D monsters unless you're just fighting a lot of extra planar Cthulhu type guys. Here we go. That's good. He's got an axe. He's got a torch. He's in a dungeon. That's perfect. Good times. Where's my goblin pile? There it is. What else we got? I'll be on for about 10 minutes more, so let's find a couple more good ones to kill here. What was this pile? I forget. Oh, this is like demons and stuff. That's a good one. That one is good. A little hard to tell what you're looking at. That's a pretty good one. Ooh, demon ape. Imp. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. That one's really good. Because it has a good silhouette. It's light against dark. Great. Flopping around. He looks like one of those little demons from Hellboy that Hellboy keeps meeting in hell. They're like the proletariat of hell. I love those guys. They're funny. The Game of Thrones LCG. That is a good idea because that's very traditional medieval fantasy. So if you got a lot of those for cheap, that would be great PCR. Yeah, I agree. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Didn't that all have just like stills from the TV show? Because it's not really a problem. If you're doing like a modern horror game, you could probably loot that. Yeah, I was looking through some of the Innistrad cards, and there's like a lot of werewolf cards, right? Where there's like a human on one side and then werewolves on the other side. And that would be really great for these tokens because you could like put one on each side of the token and then flip it over when they transform. Yeah, here we go. That is a good one. Spooky. He's like a less red Hellboy. I am super stoked for the new Hellboy movie, by the way. I didn't really understand a lot of the hate that the new trailers were receiving. I thought it looked really good. People want it to be like super grimdark and serious, but like that's not the Hellboy universe. Especially if you read the comics. They are oftentimes, serious, but there's definitely a tongue-in-cheek humor to pretty much all of the Hellboy stories, even the Hellboy in Hell ones. So I'm happy that the movies are keeping that tone. And the guy who writes the comics is very involved in it. So I'm sure it doesn't get too far off the mark. How would this look? It's kind of far over on one side, so I'd have to... He's a little asymmetrical. And he's a little bit too dark, where it's not easy to see what I'm looking at. So I'm not sure about that guy. What else we got here? Let's do some more PCs. There's some really great ones in here. So that's a good one. Oh, good. Ninja. You always need your thief/ninja guys. Do I want to get the knife in there? Let me cut her face off. That's fine. Just go like that. Put in my PC pile. What else we got here? I want some old dudes. All right, we've got an old wizard here. That's pretty good. Giant battle axe. Elf type. That's a good one. I like that she's slightly mutated. That's good. All right, that's pretty traditional, right? It's just like a wizard with an axe type thing. So that's good because it covers a lot of bases. It's tempting to just go with the really cool cards, but a lot of times those won't work very well, or no one would actually use them in practice. Pretty good. He would work pretty well as a town guard, except he has glowing weapons. Yeah, that's good. It's like a town constable. It's funny because if you look at like real medieval history, the idea of a town guard or like a medieval police force did not exist at all. But basically, all D&D cities have to have that in order to try and keep the PCs under control. There you go. That's good. What else we got here? Oh, she's good. Yeah, murder hope was on the loose. The way that I tend to run it is that if the PCs are really going crazy and just going around murdering things, especially any sort of populated area, they're not going to go to the town guard. All the people around them are just going to attack them. Because most people are going to be armed with at least knives or axes or your basic, implements or tools that people would have. And if you're going around murdering, then you're just basically a serial killer, and everyone's just going to try and kill you. They're not going to run for the guard. People in the medieval era were, I think, a lot more used to handling their own problems than we're used to doing today. It's good. The idea of city guards came more from ancient Rome. Yeah, that's possible. Although, I mean, the city guards were probably mostly there to protect the city from foreign invasion rather than doing, police work and keeping the peace, right? There was probably not as much of that, mostly because it would be almost impossible to do. Communications would be so poor, and evidence would be very thin, right? Almost every case would just be someone's word against someone else's. That must be great for a druid. And it actually is a druid. Good. There we go. I think it's about it for today. Hopefully you guys found that helpful, just my thought process and what I'm looking for when I'm making these tokens. So hopefully I have a good assortment now of different character types, different kinds of armor, different kinds of weapons. Some of them are clearly magic users. Some of them are clearly not. And some of them could be either one, right? Depending on how you would wanted to interpret them. So that's really what I'm looking for. Just that I have distinctive concrete faces that I can put down on the table and people can keep them straight. And I can keep them straight as a DM more easily because they can describe what they look like instead of having to memorize their names. I think that's really helpful. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully this week I can get out another book review. I know it's been a while since I've done a book review. I've been swamped with my secret project, but I will be doing an announcement about my secret project tomorrow. So follow me on Twitter because I'll definitely have information about it there and hopefully more information about it on my channel eventually, but definitely on Twitter. And then later this week, I'm hoping to get out What Ho Frog Demons, which is the next long delayed book review. That book is really fun. I have this big queue of books that I need to review. People keep sending me stuff to review and I feel bad about not getting to it yet. So I need to start catching up on that. But thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and I'll see you guys around next time.